When major news breaks, the world expects calm voices, steady eyes, and words chosen with care. We expect anchors to be pillars, unmoved, unshaken, unwavering. But what happens when the person delivering the headlines is quietly carrying a personal storm of their own? For Melvin, a familiar and trusted presence in American living rooms, the answer has never been simple. Viewers know him as composed, thoughtful, and grounded. Yet, like so many professionals who show up every day with a brave face, Craig has learned that duty does not pause for heartbreak, uncertainty, or private fear. In moments of national crisis, natural disasters, mass tragedies, breaking investigations, the newsroom moves with urgency. Producers count seconds, cameras roll, the teleprompter scrolls. There is no space for hesitation. And yet, behind that polished delivery is a human being who may have just received difficult news, who may be worrying about a loved one, or who may be grappling with something deeply personal that the audience will never see. This is where Craig's story becomes less about journalism and more about quiet resilience. At home, Lindsay Tsarniak understands this reality better than most. As a journalist herself, she knows the unspoken rule of the profession. You show up, you do the job, you carry on. But as a wife and partner, she also knows the cost of that expectation. When Craig walks out the door during moments of personal strain, he doesn't leave those emotions behind. He simply learns how to hold them more carefully. There have been mornings when the weight of the news mirrored the weight of his own thoughts. On those days, the studio lights felt harsher, the words heavier. Yet Craig delivered the stories with empathy, not distance, perhaps because when you are navigating your own vulnerability, you recognize it more easily in others. Older viewers especially understand this balance. Many spent decades going to work while worrying about aging parents, sick children, or uncertain futures. They recognize the discipline it takes to remain composed when life is anything but. In Craig, they don't just see a broadcaster, they see a reflection of their own lived experience. What makes these moments especially profound is that Craig never turns away from humanity. When tragedy strikes, his voice softens. When grief fills the nation, he allows space for it. That sensitivity doesn't come from training alone. It comes from knowing, personally, how fragile even the strongest days can be. Lindsay has often been the quiet anchor behind the anchor. In private moments, she provides perspective when the headlines feel overwhelming. She reminds Craig that while the world may need his voice, he is also allowed to be human. Their partnership is built not on grand gestures, but on mutual understanding, on knowing when to speak and when simply to sit together in silence. There is something deeply moving about watching someone fulfill their professional responsibility while privately navigating uncertainty. It challenges the illusion that strength means emotional distance. Craig Melvin's presence on screen suggests something far more enduring, that true strength often comes from staying connected to empathy, even when it hurts. As viewers, especially those who have lived long enough to know that life rarely unfolds neatly, this realization resonates. We don't need our anchors to be invincible, we need them to be real. And in Craig's steady delivery, we sense a man who understands that every breaking news story is also someone's personal crisis. Perhaps that is why his words land with such quiet authority. He isn't just reporting on the world as it falls apart. He is standing within it, fully aware of how quickly certainty can vanish. And still, he shows up. When the cameras finally turn off and the studio empties, Craig returns to Lindsay, to family, to the private space where emotions are allowed to surface. There, the headlines fade, replaced by the deeper work of connection and care. So what happens when major news breaks during an anchor's personal crisis? In Craig Melvin's case, something quietly remarkable. The news is delivered with dignity, the humanity remains intact, and viewers, especially those who have lived long enough to know that life rarely unfolds neatly, feel seen. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories aren't just the ones being reported, they're the ones unfolding silently behind the desk, in the hearts of the people brave enough to keep speaking when it would be easier to stop.